What is anxiety? I'm going to explain it to you like you're 5 years old. Think about the thoughts in your head. For most people, they think about the sunshine, what they're going to eat, and what work they're going to do. For people with anxiety, their thoughts are not so nice. Imagine you keep thinking that there's bad guys all around you who are trying to hurt you. Imagine you just can't stop focusing on all the horrible things that could happen to you and the people you care about. It's not a good way to live because your thoughts are just there all the time. And so that means that you think something bad is going to happen all the time. And thinking like this gets exhausting because now you're not focused on the sunshine or your diet or your work. And that makes it harder for you to live a normal life, but it doesn't have to stay like this. If you have anxiety, this video may change your life, and honestly, you probably don't know that you have anxiety. I think the majority of people have mild anxiety without even realizing it. It won't be a huge detriment to your life, but if we could lower those symptoms, your well-being and your day-to-day life would be better. You'd make friends easier, you'd laugh more, and you'd feel more comfortable being in public. So straight away, let's find out what you score on the anxiety scale. Go to link number 1 in the description and take this NHS mood assessment. It'll take you like 2 minutes to complete, and it's really valuable to know your score so that we know where you're at. The questions ask you how you felt over the last 2 weeks. So my advice is to just look at your calendar, see what the date was 2 weeks ago, and then answer the questions based on that time scale. Go and do this right now so you know that this video is even something that you could benefit from. Alright, great. So you should now have your depression and anxiety score. For depression, I'm going to make a separate long video to explain it, but I will have a card on screen that you can click on if your depression score was quite high. So what score did you get? If you scored 0, that means that you have no anxiety symptoms. So this video is probably not going to be very beneficial for you. However, you can continue watching if you're interested in learning about anxiety, and you might learn something that you could teach to someone who you think might have anxiety. You could change their lives by teaching them this stuff. If you scored below 5 points, then same as before, you likely don't have many anxiety symptoms at all, and you've maybe just been a little bit stressed from work recently. It shouldn't be hugely affecting your life at all, and so the same thing applies where you can watch the rest of this video just so you may be able to potentially help other people or yourself in the future. Now, if you scored above 5 points or so, then it is likely that anxiety is affecting your everyday life. And that's a shame because it's not the most optimum way to experience life. It's like a handicap to your enjoyment. I have to say that if you scored higher on the scale, let's say 15 points or even higher, you would be better off pausing this video and going straight away to call your doctor and getting referred for professional treatment like cognitive behavioral therapy. I do suggest that, but I didn't go down that route, and I don't know many people who actually would, because the issue with anxiety is you can't really get help for your anxiety because you're anxious to go and speak to someone new. And so self-medicating, self-treating yourself through things you find on the internet, or at least trying it, may be the better option if you don't feel up to getting a professional to help you. So if you've made it this far in the video and you're keen to learn more about the practice I'm going to teach you, and you essentially want to do a bit of self-learning to improve your life, then you have my respect. That is a very, very admirable trait to have, to try to help yourself. So I'm proud of you. So now we know our levels of anxiety, it's time to understand why anxiety even happens to us. You could skip this section if you don't really care about the theory, but I think it's important to get this small bit of education just so you can understand why it happens. And honestly, it's really interesting. It's all about the amygdala. Think of the amygdala as one of the oldest parts in the human brain. It's the part of the brain is the reason why we're still alive today. It gave us our fight or flight response. However, a hyperactivity in the amygdala will then mean that your fight or flight response is hyperactive. And that is exactly what you're feeling when you've got anxiety, a feeling of fight or flight, a feeling that you could be in trouble. This is due to evolution. Our brain, specifically the amygdala, is just trying to keep us alive. We had periods in our lives as humans where we were not safe at all. We had periods as a species that we weren't safe in. And so our brain just tried to keep us safe so that we could keep reproducing and continue the bloodline. And it's something to be grateful for. But obviously, the problem is that our amygdala is too active. If we could silence it, if we could lessen the size of the amygdala and perhaps increase the size of our prefrontal cortex, it would do the opposite of the effect of anxiety. The prefrontal cortex is like the newest, most updated part of our brain. It's the part of our brain that remembers laws and goals and society's regulations. And silencing the amygdala should bring its activity back down to normal. If we imagine people with anxieties, amygdala activity being way higher, we want to bring it back down to a reasonable level where it's not just hyperactive all the time, but it can still help us with that fight or flight response when we are in a dangerous situation. And that brings us to the practical technique that we're going to discuss that will help with anxiety. Mindfulness gained through meditation is what will help us here. Don't get annoyed that I'm just another person recommending meditation because you tried it before. You tried it like once or twice and it didn't really work for you. Just answer the following questions. If you know what anxiety is like, am I right in thinking that you would at least try to do anything that could help? Have you heard so many people preach about mindful meditation before? You simply cannot believe that we're all lying to you. It must be a case that you alone haven't really experienced the benefits of mindful meditation. And I understand that must suck. You're hearing everyone speak so highly about this practice that you did try and it just did nothing for you. Let me ask you one more question. What would you say to a fat guy who goes to the gym 3 times and then gets quite upset that he hasn't lost any weight yet? You would of course tell him that he needs to stick to it, that it does take some time, that it's logical for him to not see results in just a few days because he's been doing the actions that caused him to get fat for months or years. The first few months of any practice, any skill is like that, isn't it? You have to show up to the practice and do it even if you don't really feel like it, and you don't really see any of the results till at least a month or 2 in. And we all know that with enough time you genuinely start to enjoy the practice sessions, so you remain consistent for the sake of the session, and the results, like the fat loss or the mindfulness, just become extra treats. This is exactly how it is with meditation. The majority of beginners try to meditate, but then stopped after a few sessions just because they couldn't clear their mind of thoughts. What we need is for you to have the discipline to be consistent in the practice session, the meditation sessions, without so much of the thought of wanting to clear your mind. If you can start to love the act of meditation and start viewing it as a peaceful time of self-care, it's you time, then you'll get consistent in it. If you meditate solely for the desire of feeling the results, you probably won't get consistent because it does take time. You'll be like the people who only go to the gym just to lose weight, and they all end up quitting because they didn't actually want to go to the gym. They just wanted the end results. We all know that exercise is one of the best things that you could do, but the majority of people don't do it. Sometimes don't you wish that you could just drill it in and almost force people to just listen to you so that they'd start exercising? Well, this again is exactly how it feels with people who don't meditate. After you meditate consistently for a few months, you'll feel this too. You'll wish you could convince everyone else around you to start meditating. All I can say is that if you do start and get consistent in your meditation practice, you will be so grateful that you did. So what exactly does meditation do in terms of anxiety? I want you to think of meditation as the workout session, the gym session, and mindfulness is the result, the gains, the muscle from that workout session. Mindfulness is the cure to anxiety. Think of anxiety as just negative thoughts. Mindfulness has you thinking less and feeling the world around you more. It takes you out of your head and into real life. Mindfulness puts you in a state of flow, and you cannot have anxiety whilst in that state because in that state, you don't really think. There's a reason why 80% of CEOs and top athletes meditate every single day. And there's also a huge reason why all of the YouTubers that you're watching and all the books that you're reading, people are suggesting to meditate. You just have to get consistent to see the results first and not quit in the beginning stages. Now, there's 3 things we can do to improve your mindfulness. I've mentioned the Learn protocol in a different video, and I really like the way that that's explained. First, we educate ourselves. You're getting an education right now by watching this video, but the education shouldn't just stop there. You should continuously keep learning more and more about mindfulness, learning about the benefits, learning about the practice. You'll find that it drastically increases your motivation. I made a Skillshare class teaching mindfulness in a step-by-step process that I think is very understandable to people who never quite grasped the concept before, the Skillshare class will be linked in the description below, so you can click on that right now if you want to learn from me. I'll also link a couple of videos from some of my favorite YouTubers about mindfulness. The second part of the Learn protocol is to practice. Start practicing by following an app that guides you through the meditation session. I highly recommend using the exact app that I use. It's free. I recommend it to everyone and all of my students that I coach. It's called Medito, and it also teaches you a whole lot about meditation, so it kind of counts as the education part of the Learn protocol too. Medito is linked in the description. It's completely free. Go and download it right now and start with the daily meditation for 5 minutes every single day. And then when you get a little bit more motivation and you've got some free time, go through the Learning to Sit class. Set your practice goal to do at least 5 minutes of meditation every single day if possible. We know that it's inevitable for you to miss some days. That's okay. Just keep following the same goal of 5 minutes every day that you can. And finally, the third part of the Learn protocol is training. We can level up your practice using extra training techniques. I call this one the Mindful Reminder. I use a tracking app on my phone. You can find anyone online, but I will link my one as well. And I'd aim to get 20 mindful reminders every day. And a mindful reminder is simply when I think to myself, oh, remember to be mindful. And then I'll feel something around me. I'll use one of the 5 senses to just bring myself back to the present moments. I do this throughout my day, try to get 20 mindful reminders every single day. And I think that is hugely beneficial to the practice because now I'm bringing mindfulness into my normal day-to-day life instead of just reserving it for the meditation sessions. I'll link the Habit app that I use, but you can use any simple just tracking app. There's a few daily behaviors that you can easily couple with mindfulness too. For example, brushing your teeth, eating, putting your shoes on. If you got consistent with one of these and every single day reminded yourself when you were doing that behavior to try to be as mindful as possible through it, you'd find that mindfulness starts seeping into your normal life. And Medito has this all covered in the app, so make sure you go and download that. If you can commit to your mindfulness practice for a couple of weeks and you become consistent with it, I would honestly be very impressed. It is such a skill that the majority of people start and then quit when they don't see results. And I wish I could just drill it into more people that you don't feel the results right now. The fat guy, let me just keep using the same analogy because I think exercise analogies work quite well here. The fat guy who's ate lots of junk food and he's overate his calories for years does not deserve to suddenly see a difference in his body in just 3 days. He does deserve to see a difference in his body after a month, after 2 months. And for you, the person watching this, you probably have an internet addiction. You have a lowered level of mindfulness because you haven't meditated for a while and you've been actively using the internet for like 10 years or longer. So the first few meditation sessions, don't hold that idea thinking that you're entitled to the result, when really all you're entitled to is the practice session itself. Learn to love the practice session. There are other things that can help you reduce anxiety, but mindfulness is the most effective. It's like the 80-20 rule. Mindfulness is the 20% of things that will result in 80% of the anxiety symptoms reduction. So if you invest in mindfulness, you'll get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of reducing anxiety symptoms, and you'll get so many other benefits that you wouldn't believe me if I even tried to tell you. You just need to experience it for yourself. So set the goal to try and meditate every single day for at least 3 months before you quit. Meditation, in my opinion, is something to keep into your life forever. I personally want it to feel as normal in my life as eating and sleeping does. In the sense that missing my meditation session would actually feel weird. It would feel abnormal. And this becomes the case once you get consistent. If you've gotten this far, I'm excited for you. My life changed very dramatically after I started meditating. I started meditating consistently in May of this year. Just before that, I had symptoms, or I had the anxiety score of major anxiety. It was like 20 points. It was near the upper end. It's a horrible way to live your life, and I know it sounds like I'm making it so simplified, but mindfulness reversed that. It was mindfulness that made the big difference, and I think it's the most efficient way, the most logical way to go about reducing anxiety. It just takes that bit of consistency, and every guy that I try and coach with this, they tell me the same story. They proudly say it, that they did try it, and then they just say, oh, but I didn't feel a difference. And I asked them how many times they did it. Usually it's less than a week. Every now and then I get guys saying it was like he practiced for 2 weeks and that's pretty good. But they quit after that because they expected results. Those results only come after you get consistent, because you actually like the session, you like the gym session, you like the meditation session. So you need to start enjoying the meditation session and feel like it's something to be grateful for. It is you time. Like for me, it's Hamza time. It's personal time. I don't talk to anyone. I don't reply to my phone. I just sit there with myself. That's a nice time to have. If you've got the time to do that, that's a privilege. That's something to be grateful about. My life improved a lot after I reduced my anxiety symptoms, hugely. And I wish that for anyone else watching this. If you watch this far, then it's clear that this is something that you are very interested in, and I just wish I could like force you to get into mindfulness, but I'm hoping that by watching all this video you feel pretty motivated. And if you just keep in mind to not be obsessed about the result, to just meditate for the sake of the meditation session, I think you'll go quite far with it. And then you might be in my position, just wishing you could like force people to meditate. Just try it, just be consistent, and once you've felt it for like 3 months, you want everyone else to do it too. I wish you the best. I wish that your anxiety symptoms reduce as mine have, and your quality of life just improves dramatically. Take care.